You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Home Field Apparel.
Right up Meridian, baby.
All right, folks, welcome back. Right Up Meridian. Scott here with you. Excited to have Dustin Dopirak on. We go way back to IU basketball days. Dustin is now with still with Indy Star on the Indianapolis Pacers beat, so he gets to travel outside the Midwest, outside of Big Ten country. He also gets to watch a team that shoots and makes threes. So, Dustin, that's got to be fun for you.
Yeah, they shoot more threes in like 5 minutes than IU shoots in a game, basically at this point.
Oh, I know. It's
no,
wild going to both IU and Pacers games. It's like I get the bends trying to go from team to team.
Yeah, that's almost impossible. Like, it's just like, how am I watching the same game? How am I watching the same brand of human? Like, how is this possible? I still keep up on IU just because obviously, I spend so much time covering them. Still always want to know what they're up to. But yeah, no, it is a different universe. I mean, they're just not this team in particular. I mean, they haven't shot well in a while. And this team in particular does not even try because it's just so based on getting the ball inside to Renew and Ware. And you're seeing Mbako hit the occasional one, but I mean, the guards aren't particularly good 3-point shooters. And then you go to the Pacers and it's Tyrese Haliburton taking 35 footers, getting across the boundary line, saying, I'm knocking this down, and Buddy taking, every three that he can take and all that, and playing at just 1,000 miles an hour. But yes, it is a drastically different basketball game. It has been a real adjustment in general. Just seeing the difference in skill, the difference in speed. It's just like it is truly amazing, like the what's possible at the NBA level.
Yeah,
you're just like, I mean, and I loved covering college basketball for years. I still think it's a great product. I'm not trying to knock it in any way. But man, just the caliber of athletic talent at the NBA, it's just like you do sometimes watch it and you're like, man, how do you even slow your view down to watch a college game, after you've seen this?
No, it's so true. As somebody who likes both, it's tough, but it's amazing. And the thing that always gets me is in college, with like when the shot clock's down to like 4 seconds, everyone's like rush. It's like they're rushing. It's like, oh my God, 4 seconds. You can feel the pressure, and it feels like, it just makes any sense. Like, it feels like 4 seconds in the shot clock in college is faster than the NBA. Because in the NBA, I'll see them like sometimes reset. Like, they'll go into the post and it's like, all right, this isn't working. They'll reset with like 3.5 seconds left, and it's like they have time to like reset, take a couple dribbles, like get something done. It's just like there's so much more you can do in so little time in the NBA. It's bananas.
Yeah, because they're just that skilled. Like they just trust that. They're just like, okay, like I can try one more move, and I only need 0.5 seconds to get what might end up being a bad shot, but like I can pull up with 0.5 and get it off, and not have a problem and not be afraid of it, because just operation time is shorter. You can do everything faster because you're that talented.
Yeah,
you're that fast, that skilled, that slick. They just are. And then so it's just like, all right, like I have time to do this. I trust myself, and I've done it enough times, where the college guys are like, can I do this?
Yeah.
I don't know. NBA, they know they can. And so there is a trust level on that.
So I wanted to have you on now because I think we're in an interesting spot. So the game, we're recording this Monday morning. We have the in-season tournament knockout game tonight. This team, as we were talking before we got on, is really schizophrenic. I'm curious where your feel is on this team, because I look at it, as I talked about in our last pod, like, there's 4 games at home that I circled: the loss to Chicago on the 30th of October, the loss to Charlotte, the loss to Toronto, the loss to Portland, where they're all losses, but it's like those were all games where they really should have won, or like kind of could have closed it out. And it's like, if you can't just give all losses to wins, but if this team had figured that out, they'd be 14-4, second in the East. I think it'd be a much different conversation. Sure. I know it's still a young team. On the positive side, it's like when things have really mattered, like in the in-season tournament games, they have locked it in and closed out teams and closed out good teams. But then they still have these games where they just come out and have complete clunkers. And I don't know, what do you? I think it's just a young team kind of figuring it out, but I'm curious how you see this team between those two kind of, diopose sides.
I mean, there's a lot working in there, and you're just trying to figure out, okay, what's what here. I mean, some of it's make or miss, some of it's make or miss, because at the end of the day, these guys, this team plays so fast and is really relying on the ball going in the hole. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, like it's something because like these guys aren't perfect shooters. Not everybody's like as skilled as these guys are. These threes are not automatic, and they have some nights where the ball just isn't going in. And when there isn't, there's carryover, both from a mood standpoint, but also your defense has to play in transition because you're giving up these long rebounds and you got to get back quick, and they don't defend well, so they put themselves in. There is a lot of sort of offense to defense, sort of carryover. But it's just yeah, I mean there is some youth involvement in it. There is just some style of play involvement in it that it doesn't take a lot of mistakes for it to go wrong. And there's just the fact that they are not a good defensive team, as a whole.
No.
And a big piece of it is if you put, their best defensive lineup is an okay defensive lineup. It's functional, but it's not like their best offensive lineup and their best defensive lineup are almost entirely different guys.
Yeah.
Well,
and I've noticed, like, I honestly think their best defense is their offense, in the fact that they shoot so much, but they are shooting at such a high efficiency that it's like when you're playing them, if you can't score and keep up at that pace, like, in a sense, their offense is their defense. It's not a way to win a title or go deep in the playoffs, but it's like in a weird way at this point, like, I look at their offense being their best defense.
In a manner of speaking, it is. Like when the ball goes in the bucket a lot and they're able to get back and set,
yep,
they're a lot better. And so when the ball isn't going in, they're a wreck. So yeah, exactly. You have this balance where you put out that starting five, especially with Buddy in it now, and you really only have one perimeter player who can really guard in Brown.
Yeah,
Toppin's getting better. I mean that's its own topic. I mean I think Obi had a really good night against Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler still scored 33 points, but you saw some good things from Obi, and that's something because Obi's never been known as a good defensive player. That's why it didn't work out in New York. But you're seeing some fight from him, and you're seeing some growth from him game to game, and that needs to be pointed out. So just I'm probably going to end up ripping Obi in the general, but I want to point him out in the specific. But to your point is when they're really clicking offensively, it's hard to just outscore them, and it's harder to beat them when they are at least set. They have a fighting chance when they're not playing in transition defensively, because when they are playing in transition defensively, they're not very good at all.
Right.
As bad as they are in a half court, they're worse. Like they don't really do a good job of stopping the ball when it's rolling. They're just kind of like maybe get in somebody's way, and that's the best sort of situation they have. But yeah, no, I mean, like like they're probably best net rating is like the Buddy Hield lineup. The starting five now, which they have a huge net rating because their offensive rating is nuts. Like it's like 140 or something crazy like that. And so yeah, it puts them in the best position to defend. They can put in a good defensive lineup, but that group tends to miss a lot of shots, and then they end up, just in transition a lot. If it's Brown and Nesmith and Nembhard, out there, and maybe McConnell or somebody like that, or even if it's Tyrese, you're smaller. You've got okay scores. They're not great. If you get Mathurin when he's defending well, I mean, because there's a pretty vast difference. Mathurin has a lot of defensive talent that he's still trying to figure out how to use. When he's locked in and doing all the right things and not getting just messed up in switches or whatever, he can be a pretty physical defender. And so he can be part of that group too. And sometimes that group can score, sometimes it can't. And when it doesn't, like you said, it can be in disadvantaged defensive positions, even if it has pretty good guys out there guarding. So it's just like like figuring out the whole formula has not worked for them from the defensive end. And so it's like if they're not guarding like you should have this really big margin for error if you're scoring 130 points a night, and they don't.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
What's interesting is there's everything you're saying with the defense is 100% true. And like, they have to defend better. They are, most efficient offense in the league. And I think the worst defense in the league. And it's not even, over the season, they're 30th. Like if you go to like cleaning the glass over the last 5 games or 30th, like they're just not in it. No matter how you slice the data, they're the worst defensive team. But what I've been kind of digging into this morning that I think is interesting is when you look at the usage on offense, and then like the effectiveness, points per shot on offense, those things don't line up. Like Obi Toppin, you mentioned, like he's one of the most efficient players on the team, one of the least used, only 14% of possessions. Nesmith, one of the most, effective players. Like, it's interesting, like, the top 4 people on usage for the Pacers are Haliburton, obviously, Turner, Mathurin, and Hield. Turner and Mathurin are 2 of the most inefficient scorers you have on this team. It's a weird mix where it almost looks like you could make a better offensive lineup even than they are now. I'm just curious, and like, I don't want to pick on Ben Mathurin, but you have to. Like, at this point, like, he's the 3rd highest usage guy on the team. He's 1.1 points per shot, like, just 36 in the league, percentage wise, like, just not doing what he needs to do offensively, not quite there defensively. And like, I'm at a lot of the home games. The thing that's been disappointing for me with him is he's not driving all the time, but when he drives, like, he's always looking for the foul. Like, he's always looking for the ref, and it's like, where's the foul?
Yeah.
It's like, there was one game, I think it was the Bulls game, where, like, he bitched at the ref, he got a tech, and then, like, the next play, they just called him, like, a foul. It was like, he didn't even touch the guy, but it's like, that was like hey, stop. Like, it's just like,
right.
this is a penalty for that last tech, but it's like, he's always looking for the call. I don't know, like, and maybe I had too high of hopes for him. Like, I think this is the Pacers need to find that second dude. I was hoping he would step into that role. I look at this team as, like, if he could find a way to be more efficient, you could even have a better offense than you have now.
Yeah. I think what's interesting, like, what's been interesting for me to try to figure out, and it's a little above my basketball acumen, but it's this notion that, like, the way that Haliburton and Mathurin's styles don't exactly jive.
Right.
And what Haliburton's good at, like, what that's not just what he's good at, it's what he's phenomenal at. It's why he's as good as he is creating this sort of constant ball movement that leads to guys getting in these incredible efficient positions.
Right.
And that's why Obi works so well with him, because Obi is, and Obi will, and he's flat out said it, which I thought was really mature on his part, is like, I'm not a guy that you run stuff necessarily, that it's all about me. It's like, I play within the system and it sets me up. And because what Tyrese gets for Obi is layups where he barely has to dribble.
Yeah.
Like, he is just it creates situations where he's getting the ball right at the rim and finishing, and it's easy. Like, it's not like it's a almost 100% efficient shot.
Yeah.
What Obi's getting, and Ty just creates this just constant ball movement, and like, he's best at guys who don't need to hold the ball.
Right.
Who he can create this movement where eventually it's going to, figure out either a catch and shoot opportunity on the perimeter or around the rim, on a roll or a slip or something like that, where you don't have to work that hard. It's just the ball is there and then it's in the bucket, and Mathurin, his talent set is like, get me the ball in the out in an isolation.
Yeah.
Let me cook this guy, or let me take it at a couple defenders and they're going to foul me. I mean, that's what was the best thing about him as an offensive player last year. Is his free throw rate was humongous. He's going, hell-bent for leather at the rim, and it's like, I'm daring you to foul me. And I think what's weird is there are ways in which I see things in him that are better. Like on a play-to-play basis, and he's such, you see some just phenomenal finishes from him, through contact, but just twisting himself around the rim somehow to be able to put it soft up off the bucket. You're like, that's still there. Like, why are these numbers not as good? And it's just like, it doesn't necessarily jive, with what he's doing. It's like, you got to be able to really move without the ball, to really play with Haliburton. You got to run, you got to move without the ball. It's not that he doesn't do that. He does. Like, he's doing that kind of just fine, but it's just not, it doesn't play into his great strengths. I mean, I think that's why you're seeing him come off the bench now, and you are seeing some things get better, and it puts him in an awkward position that, on one hand, he might be the, like, if you want to make him the number 2 scorer, like, he needs some minutes with Haliburton, like, he needs to be a starter, all those things. But it's like, almost like the best way to actually get him the kind of numbers that make you a number 2 guy are to make him the top option on the second unit. And so it's like, does this just not work? Is this something I'm missing? Or is it just that to get the most out of Haliburton, you need a bunch of guys that can score without having the ball in their hand very much? I mean, Buddy certainly is that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Buddy don't need to dribble, like he does from time to time. He can score off the bounce, but it's like, if Buddy's just getting teed up, T-ball threes, that works, and Buddy commands gravity. Where Mathurin needs to get the ball, he needs to get a defender in front of him, and he needs to get after him, and that requires the ball to be in his hands for 6 or 7 seconds.
And that's what's been so interesting this year. I want to, at some point, I want to talk about Haliburton because he's been awesome, and like it needs to be mentioned. Mm-hmm. But going into this year, it did feel like, all right, the feel was going this year. It's like, all right, Buddy Hield, like we'll trade him at some point, and then Mathurin's going to be the number 2, and like Obi, we can see if we can pull him up. This year has kind of gone in a way where there's a definite connection between Haliburton and Buddy Hield. Like they know Buddy knows where to go to get him the ball. Haliburton knows where he's going to be. And as you mentioned, like Buddy Hield's like almost the perfect player to play with Haliburton because like he'll be open, and then most games outside of like that Trailblazers game where no one can hit anything, like Hield's good for shooting like 50% from 3. Like it's bananas. Like he had like at one point like hit like 9 threes in a row over 2 games. And part of it's because like he's just so freaking open. Yeah. But it's like I do wonder, this is a very open question, but do you think that the Pacers are rethinking the ability of like moving Hield? It's a weird spot because like you got to figure out what to do with this contract. Like that's a bigger number, but in a larger sense, like do you think at some point Haliburton is going to need a solid number 2 if we're going to turn this? And again, we have time. This is like year 1 of probably a 3 to 4 year process. Right. But do you think that the number 2 that he needs is on the team or not on the team? So kind of a 2-part question there.
My first blanch thought is not on the team.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, and I was not thinking that coming into the year. I was like,
Same.
You have to consider the possibility that maybe Mathurin is Kobe Bryant. Like I mean, not quite at that level, but like he does a lot of these things. He's got this build, he's got this muscle, he's got this determination and sheer will and competitiveness. And so you got to leave open for the possibility that he's that, and you got to try to foster that as best as you can. And I'm not sold that he isn't, and I'm not sold that he is. But it's like part of it is just Haliburton is a weird guy to play with. Like on some level, he's the perfect guy to play with because man, he involves everybody, and that's all he wants to do. Like from a deep in his soul way of viewing the world, he wants to prop other people up. Like that is like his life goal, and that is his basketball goal, and they come together in this just beautiful symmetry, and it just makes it just a glorious thing to watch. Just if you like, again, just like seeing somebody help other people, he's just really good at it. But on the other hand, it's like, okay, to be this really second guy, you need somebody that guy has to get some level of ball dominance, not a ton, but some, to really foster a situation where he can be a guy who scores 20, 25 a game, that you can say, all right, well, they're just taking Ty out. You need to go get 25. And I think, I'm trying to think what game was that he had a rough one. I think it might have been, I don't think it was Portland. It was I think the loss before that, where you're like I think you only had 13. It was Orlando, and you're just like, okay, like, and I even wrote the story that like they really need to develop a second guy, and I don't know if it's Mathurin. And so, but it's like I just don't know that there's the capacity to develop somebody in a scenario where the ball is moving like that. And again, that works great for Hield. It works great for Toppin, where they could just set up where they like the ball and be able to finish. Again, the Hield from 3, Toppin at the rim. Do you need another guy like that? But it's like, okay, like, well, what do you do with Buddy? Like, he just creates so much gravity as a shooter, but there are limits. Obviously, he can create from time to time. But he's not great at it. Like, he's not taking the ball at 2 and 3 people and ducking through them. He can get around one guy and finish. And he's pretty good at that. He's got good finishing skills around the rim, but you're not like giving him the ball on the top of the key and just go get me a bucket, get a high ball screen, and whatever happens, find a way to score. However they defend you, whether it's a pull up or whatever, like that's not Buddy's game.
Yep.
Where it can be Mathurin's game, but it's not Buddy's. And Brown's okay. Brown, obviously was fantastic, the other night against Miami when he went off for 30, but that's not necessarily his deal. So I do think it has, Mathurin still can be, and I'm not sold that it's not him. I think there's a better chance it's somebody else. I mean, I think really the sort of that kind of fits. I'm less thinking that it's a 2 or a 3. I'm more thinking that it's a 4.
Yeah.
That it's a Siakam type that is a bigger, 6'8", 6'9" wing, And I think Obi still has a place, but I don't think it's Obi. You know, Obi I think is aware of that too. Like he can hit, a catch and shoot three. He can get his shots at the rim. He can get his buckets in transition. He's not going to be a guy that, all right, if they're taking Ty out, this guy can be the focal point where Siakam can be that kind of guy.
Well, and you're right up my alley in that. And then I want to get back to Haliburton. I was talking to my brother-in-law about this over Thanksgiving because my brother-in-law is always like, let's make some trades, let's do something. And it's like while I do believe like windows are smaller, so it's like you can't just be like, hey, we have a 5-year window. It's like these things can open and shut very quickly. Sure. I do think they have like an 18-month period where their salary position is fantastic. They only have the one max guy. But you look at the free agents this offseason. I mean, Siakam's a free agent. I think OG Anunoby's a free agent. Paul George is a free agent. That'd be a wild. But I mean, he's a guy who would fit as well. Like I think any one of those three guys fits in their own way, in a different way. And like I was saying, and this is, we'll have to wait and see, but it's like that, the thing that encouraged me about when Toppin came here was it sounded like he made his own list regardless of anything else before he talked to his agent. He's like, I want to go play with Tyrese Haliburton if I can. Right. Like, I think that Tyrese has that pull where being a Pacers fan for 30 years, I always joke, like David West is probably our best offseason free agent acquisition. Like we're not where guys want to go, but I do think that changes if you have a dude like Haliburton out there. So I think that's something that maybe the Pacers don't make the move this year, and just because don't do what the Knicks did to get Carmelo, like don't use all your powder to go get somebody, and then you lost all your pieces. Like save all those pieces and then go for a free agent piece. But speaking to that, like Haliburton, as somebody who covers this team, like what's it like day in day out getting to see this guy? Like as a fan, I have season tickets. I've been telling my son, who's been loving to go to games with me, it's like, this is the most fun I've had watching the Pacers in years. And that goes back to some of those Paul George teams. Like, there's something about Haliburton having a guard like that, who's a pass-first guard, who wants to get guys going. And I tell my son's, learning how to play basketball. He's in 5th grade. It's like, just watch him, because even when he doesn't have and I'm talking to anybody out there who's listening to this and doesn't go to games, like, you have to go to the game to see him. Cause like, even when he doesn't have the ball, he's coordinating, he's pointing out where guys should go. And then when he has the ball, like he makes the right decision 95% of the time. But I just want to speak his virtues for a second. It's nice to see him start to get some kind of national pub the last couple of weeks. But man, this dude it's special.
Yeah. No, he really is. I mean, one of the biggest fears I have is that we're going to wear him out from a media perspective. Yeah. Because he's so smart. Yeah, he is so smart and he's so giving with his time. And there are times when I'm thinking and I haven't asked him this yet, but like sometimes like, are we getting to be too much? Like, and we're not a big, we're not a big media crowd, but it's just like, he's willing to talk every game. Like I think he does view it as a responsibility. And I think when the losses kind of wear on him, and I'm always sort of wondering and I'm not trying to make him win or lose. Like, it's not my job. Like I'm a reporter and I'm it's to be objective and everything like that. So it's not my job to make Tyrese Haliburton's life easy. Right. But in the same way, I do think
don't piss him off, Dustin. Come on. We want him here.
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know. I mean, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying either. I'm trying to document. Yeah. And, I mean, he's just the best quote. Like, I mean, reporters know this, like you have what you call go-to guys. Yep. For when you're talking to players, because you're looking for somebody who can explain what just happened, and say like, okay, like I saw this from a certain angle, but you're out there playing, like I'm tweeting, I'm thinking, I'm writing my gamer that has to go at the time, like, and you see the game at a level that I never will. So like, you tell me what you saw that I didn't see. And what you get from Haliburton is it's magnificent. I mean, from like the quotes we get from him are incredible. I mean, whether they win or lose, his ability to dissect what went wrong is incredible. I mean, it's unbelievable. And he's honest. Like he doesn't feel the same, where Carlisle and most coaches are like, I don't want to put out there what I noticed, because then maybe you'll know that I know it. And then, like the coach will see it and they'll be able to counter. For Tyrese is thankfully just more sort of open. It's like, okay, they know what we do. We know what they do. And again, his just level of process and comprehension. It's amazing and so fast, and he's so young. Like he's this like 24, and he's like he's been such a pro when they've lost. He's been so honest about what's gone wrong, what hasn't, and he just is real. And it's just like he like to your point about free agents. I mean, like he's best buddies with everybody. I mean, like he gets along with everyone, highest and lowest. I mean, like you watch him interact with clubbies. That's the thing I think that's been a new thing for me to learn, is to see the interaction with the clubhouse guys and the players. Because I'm used to college ball, and that's not even a thing. And we were in Cleveland, and he's talking to he wants to talk to the clubby guy about how much they like like whether they're happy with Deshaun Watson. Like Ty wants to get into a conversation like that. Like he loves this kind of stuff. And so he like his genuine normalness and yet superior intellect and thing. It's just like, wow, you're seeing all this guy, and he's so normal, and like so you're like afraid of like, am I taking too much of this? And is that going to end up leading to him, losing that?
I love that. It's so true, but it's such a solid Midwestern take. Like that's not like, New York or LA is just like let's tap it all out immediately.
And part of that is because Obi's like, first off, like, New York war on Obi. Like and for sure, like that media attention wore on Obi, and I think he enjoys it now that he doesn't have nearly as much. He's super nice to us, like he's been very accessible, very easy to talk to. I think he's like, he's a New York guy. He was born in Brooklyn, and loved the New York thing, and we talk about it, and like he still speaks about it with this reverence. Like he loves being around all those playgrounds and the 4th Street Cage and Rucker and Dykeman and all that, like, and he misses that he gets to play in the Garden. But this brings him back to Dayton, and he was so comfortable at Dayton. Dayton loves him. He is an adopted son of Dayton. And the fact that he can get back and forth, like this feels like home to him, even though it's kind of the opposite of home, and it's because that pressure gets to you. Like when there's that much of it. And so like on one hand, like I consider myself like I'm proud of my journalism background, and I don't want it to be like, oh, it's easy here. But on the I don't think I write that way, but in the same way, like you can see how it gets to be diminishing returns on both sides. That there's like, okay, like what are you really gaining if they hate talking to you? And they don't want to talk to anybody, and they're so cut off. The honesty level is so much. Again, part of it is because there's just not that many of me,
right?
To start with, but like but it's just like, okay, you want to make it so that like they don't dread it, and like I know I'm not everybody's favorite person in that locker room to start with, but you just want to make sure that they don't view this as you just complete horrible drudgery, that they don't want to be open. And so far, Haliburton's just been amazing at that.
And you see it.
Always talking to me or not, but he's just really good at the whole process of being a pro.
As a fan who's had a good number of games, you see it. It's like it looks like a team that gets along. And again, that doesn't always. It translates to wins sometimes, but it's like there's been some Pacers teams where it's like these dudes they're pros and they just don't like each other, but it's like. Right. You can tell McConnell is just a great locker room guy. Like he gets it. Like Obi Toppin's joking around. Even guys like, we don't have time today. We'll talk about it next time. Like Jarace Walker. I'm concerned about a pick that high not playing, but like even a guy like that who is obviously, I'm sure, struggling with his role coming in the league. He looks like he's having a good time. Like, again, it's just what I see, in warmups and stuff, but it's like, he doesn't look like he's sulking. Maybe he is later, but it's like, you don't see that.
You should see him in G League. I mean, and I would say if you are concerned, if you are a Pacers fan that is concerned about Jarace Walker from a well-being standpoint, if he's unhappy, go watch him play a G League game. Go catch a Mad Ants game, and he's really enjoying it there. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, there is pressure there. There is that feeling of you're a number 8 pick, you're supposed to play. But he's embraced those opportunities. It helps that he's got Shepherd. He and Shepherd are close. Shepard's actually got a few more opportunities, but I think them being able to go through things together has really helped. They've been sent down to the Mad Ants together, and it's like, oh, cool road trip. It helps that, like the games are in Gainbridge this year.
Yep.
And it's literally like they're going down to play a JV game, and the varsity guys show up. Like that's it's a small thing, but like you could tell it mattered. I went to the last game. It was like kind of a 6:30 game or whatever, so it was like actually like not on a game night because they had previously played on like a 12:30 afternoon. And, Tyrese and Miles and Buddy and, Ben and Aaron, everybody shows up and everybody was there to watch those guys. Walker got a dunk or a three or something like that, and they're cheering up and they're cheering. And it's like, okay, we didn't forget you. Like, we know you can play. And we want to make sure that you feel supported and you feel like you're part of this. Like just the fact that you're down playing this game doesn't, like you're not being looked down upon. And in the same way, like they're cheering for Oscar Shibwe getting 25 rebounds a night.
Yeah, dude, he's killing it. His numbers in G
League.
League.
Because they're amazed by that. Like, there are shortcomings Shibwe has that are the reason why he's only been called up once and he didn't play. But they're blown away by the fact that he rebounds like that. It's a big, like they are impressed by it.
Yeah.
So like on one hand is Walker is embracing the opportunities that he's getting. He knows that this is different. I think, Rick has been pretty clear, but I've been saying like, okay, like don't think that because you're not playing and Ben did Mathurin did last year, that means he's so far beyond where you are, like your time is going to come. This is a different season. We're trying to win now. Whereas last year development, it was about development. So like this year, you're in a situation where we have to win now. Like, you're going to play when you can help us win. And so right now these guys are ahead of you, but that doesn't mean you're deeply behind or we don't like what you do or we regret picking you or anything like that. I think they've done a good job of getting that across, but yeah, I mean, like it is a group that is very welcoming. I mean, I think I will say it's tenser now because there's an expectation.
Right.
Last year, I would say to everybody in the offseason that like I've never seen a team that was a happier team that was 35-47, but part of it is when you have no expectations, it's a joyride.
Right.
And you can even like if you surpass expectations, even if you don't win, like you're like, man, nobody saw us coming. This is great. Then everybody's getting opportunities and everybody's getting chances and it's a developmental year. So like you're still trying to get everybody better and like you're concerned about everybody's mood. You're trying to make sure, this year it's different, like this year there is some tension and it's not that guys aren't getting along or anything like that. Everybody's fine at this point. Like, I'm not saying that there's like fights in locker rooms or anything like that. Like it is still very, very good chemistry, but you can see the difference of, like, you lose games there are games that you're supposed to win. Whereas like last year, there were no games they were supposed to win. And
right.
So anyone they won was great. Now when you lose a game that you're supposed to win, you're like, all right, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah.
And so that shows up. And once that's there, it's not as much of a joyride.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I've had a couple.
So it is tense.
Couple of those they should have won. But let's focus in on like just to finish off with the micro of what we have ahead of us. The game tonight against the Celtics. I've been saying, if I was the NBA, I honestly think if you're going to get like I look at the bracket, it's like if I'm the NBA, I want the Pacers. Again, I'm biased, but it's like I think you want the Pacers to come out and get to Vegas because, like, in the end, you don't want the in-season tournament to just be the Bucks and the Celtics and the Lakers in that final, 3 of the 4, maybe the Kings. Like, they're all going to be in the Eastern Western Conference Finals. Right. Like, those are guys that people know. Like, if you're the NBA, I think you look at this as like, yes, you want some of that star power, but you're hoping for like an NCAA type, like, hey, who's this young guy? Like, let's look at the new guy. And really, the Pacers are the only team that kind of fit that bill. Like the Kings had some of that last year, so maybe they're there. The Pelicans, who knows if Zion's playing but people know of Zion. Like, I do think there's a real, like, I hope the Pacers win as a fan, but I also look at this as I think there's a real opportunity here for if the Pacers can win this game and they can get to Vegas and have a good showing there, there's a real opportunity for the Pacers and Haliburton to really get even a little bit more national shine and kind of open the eyes of some people. Be like, wow, there's something kind of cool happening here. All that said, this is probably like the worst matchup in the entire tournament to have, is you have the Celtics. We played them once. They blew us out. It was in Boston. Haliburton didn't play. I'm just curious how you look at this, because on one hand, it's like the Celtics are a really good team. I do wonder how much this, obviously guys want this, but it's like, how much do the Celtics want it versus how much do the Pacers want it? Because if you go to Vegas, you're playing 2 more games, and it's like the Celtics are trying to go for a goal that the Pacers probably aren't this year. Like the Celtics have a title possibility. The Pacers, as much as we love them, like they're not really going to get there this year. And, you know, I loved Haliburton's comments after, I think it was that game against the 76ers, or one of the games where he's just like, hey man, I've never won anything. Like, and I want to win this. Like, I've never won anything, and I want to start by winning this. I wonder if that's going to be enough to push them through. But I'm just curious your thoughts as we look into this game, and, you know, what's at stake for the Pacers.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is an advantage. It's definitely an advantage of wanting it more, of feeling like it's a bigger deal. I mean, I think they were on the flip side of that, you know, Tyrese was asked, do you think you guys are getting up as a group too much for the in-season tournament games? I think that was after they lost to Portland. He was like, man, I really hope not. You know, I really hope not. He said, that's BS if we do, because we haven't won anything. Like, we should not be ignoring, you know, in our minds, the rest of these games that are not in-season tournament games.
Right.
You know, like, we should not only be valuing these because there's a trophy at the end, you know, and it's closer than, you know, the big one. You know, so but there's clearly been a level of motivation. It's definitely been a stick that, you know, a carrot that, you know, Rick Carlisle has hung out there. It was like, okay, like, these are a big deal, you know, and I think part of that, like, Rick's been a little company man with it, you know, because I think he does try to push a lot of league ventures that he likes, and he likes this one. So I think that's part of it, but it is also a recognition, and Carlisle's been saying this for years, not for years. I've only been knowing him for a year, but like last year, there were a lot of these occasions where this is a playoff environment. Like, whenever he could like credibly say, like, this is like a playoff game, you know, take it like one. He has embraced that opportunity. And so he really did that with Philadelphia, because it was like, okay, you get 2 and 3 days, and the second one counts, you know, for this in-season tournament. And you get to, you know, you play one night and it's this great crowd and whatever, and you make it a ball game. And then, all right, now you have a day to look at what you did, you know, come up with a tweak, do something different. Like, that's what playoff basketball is like. It's like, you get beat one night, but you're like, all right, let's watch this. We're playing the same team again. How can we do this different? You're not moving on you don't have to move on to the next one. You can stay and say, all right, like, what do we fix here? You know, and they were able to really do that with Philadelphia. And it was just a small thing, but, you know, moving somebody to the nail, you know, so there was somebody at the nail whenever they were running these kind of elbow pick and rolls, and there's somebody in Tyrese Maxey's way, you know, so that he's just not blitzing everybody. And it's like, he still scores 30 something, but he doesn't get 50. And that gives you a crack at it, and then you win the game. And so they have been talking big on it, but it's just, it is, when you haven't been there, you know, and you haven't, you know, again, Haliburton hasn't been to the playoffs. Buddy Hield has never been to the playoffs, and he's been playing the league for like 8 years. You know, like, these things are motivation, and they can see, again, like, they are one win from Las Vegas. You know, they are one win from being in a showcase event. They're already in a showcase event. They're gonna be on TNT tonight. You know, like, that's a big deal in and of itself. And they were gonna be in TNT all year. So, like, they know they have an opportunity. They know this is big. So, like, that is certainly an advantage they have. Like, if Boston doesn't go to Vegas,
they'll be on TNT again, and they'll be in the playoffs.
I don't need to go there. But, you know, on the same hand, it's like, you know, it's a game, it counts. And, you know, to whatever you're doing. And so, like, they still have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Drew Holiday. You know, even with Porzingis
and Porzingis.
Porzingis is out.
Oh, is he out? All right.
Yeah, he's out.
That helps.
But, you know, it does help. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
But, you know, those 3 guys are a big deal, and they just got cooked in Boston and just absolutely sliced up. So, you know, like, Boston looks like the best team in the league to me right now.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's at least the positive I have going into tonight is I hope, you know, that the crowds have been really good for Pacers crowds. I hope it's you know, sold out. I hope it's rowdy tonight. I think it will be, because you know, that Cleveland game in Gamebridge, there was an in-season tournament game. Like, it felt intense in that fourth quarter. Like, the crowd was into it. So I hope the crowd's there. But like, that's the other way to look at it, is that I think the Celtics are also the best team in the league. But it's like, hey, we get them at home. That's helpful. Why is it playing music? Sorry.
Right.
It's like, we get them at home. That's helpful. And if we can get through Boston, there's a world where this is maybe the toughest game in the tournament we're going to have. That, if we can beat Boston, we get them at home, then it's like, then you're in Vegas. And I mean, it doesn't get easier, but it's like, I think Boston might be the toughest test for this team in this tournament.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is. So if you get Boston, I mean, like, obviously you're, there's a good chance you're looking at Milwaukee, on Thursday.
And that they're not easy, but it's like
And sure. I mean, like, you're playing on a neutral court and that's different. But that being said, they've already beat Milwaukee.
Right.
They didn't have Lillard, that makes a significant difference. But they were able to find a formula to beat Milwaukee on a night when Giannis was just absurd.
Yeah.
Incredibly dominant. They still managed to get it done. So like that looks doable. And so you can do that. And then whoever comes out of the West is beatable.
Right.
It's I think Phoenix, is Phoenix. I think they end up winning the thing. But yeah, I mean, I think they can, it's not crazy to imagine them beating whoever comes out of the West. It's not crazy at all. And again, like they are the most driven group, out of this, as far as like this thing matters to them more than anybody else. They have that edge. Now, that doesn't mean they can't go out and lose tonight. I think being here is a big deal. I think they can come out feeling pretty good out of themselves if they get to this one and they give Boston the game tonight.
Yeah, I agree.
If they get beat, as long as they come out, really good showing on national TV, show out against Boston, make it a game, make them work, and Boston wins it, they're all right. But if they go to Vegas, that's a big deal. But again, they do have to, the other piece is they do really have to start taking these things and sustaining them.
Yeah.
And taking confidence from these games and sustaining them from game to game. Now would require, getting to the end means they got to get 3 really good ones in a row, and they have a hard time getting 3 really good ones in a row. They have a hard time getting 2.
Yeah, I know.
So, just again, Saturday night was phenomenal. Night before that was not.
Yep.
Night before that was really not. And so, it's interesting, but they are going to have the drive. Haliburton is going to be absolutely, presuming he's back, which I do presume.
I hope so. I think that felt like that was a rest. I thought they were going to rest him anyway that game.
Isaiah Jackson had something else too. Yeah. The fact that he wasn't on the bench told me it was real. Because generally, they like having him around because he's a fun guy to have around. Usually he's one, building everybody up, and two, there was obviously a bunch of games he missed last year, both from the elbow and then, just toward the end, they kind of shut him and Miles down.
Yep.
He was still valuable because, again, just what he sees, he would not be on the bench if he wasn't legitimately sick.
Yeah, but I get the feel too. I think
yeah.
Everything that we said, Tyrese knows, sees, and he understands what's available here. So I think unless he's really out, he's going to play tonight.
Yeah. No, I'd be stunned if he doesn't play.
Yeah.
But yeah, so presuming he plays and everything like that, he's going to be deeply motivated. He's going to want this one really bad.
Yeah.
So, not that he doesn't want all of them really bad, but he's been incredible in his tournament games. As good as he's been overall, he's been nuts in tournament games.
No, he really has. So, it's been awesome. Well, Dustin, I appreciate you coming on. Let's do it. Let's do it again sometime before, maybe right after the holidays are over, and we know if we win the tournament, I'm going to have you back. If we get to Vegas in the finals or something. But if not, let's kind of follow up and see if maybe the team's figured out a little bit more of a level playing field. But no, it's going to be a fun season, man. It's exciting. So Dustin, I appreciate you coming on. Check him out on Indy Star, Dustin Dopirak. And for everybody listening, I appreciate the time. And for the Right Up Meridian podcast, this is Scott signing off.